Hi everyone, it's Ricky. So this is a video tutorial that I promised you guys. I'm going to try to keep it to 15-20 minutes. Hopefully it doesn't go past that so you guys can, don't have to use so much time. But feel free to use this video to reference back and forth to all the stuff that we covered in the class. I'm going to try to do it a little bit slower and a little bit more systematically this time. So let's get right into it. I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. So we're inside the software app, Sketchup web app. So let me show you really quick how to get to that. So basically you just type in Sketchup web app and you're gonna look for this link right here, Sketchup for web. Minimize that guy. And let's ignore that. So once you sign in through Google using your school account, this is gonna be your homepage. And what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna create a new file and you're gonna do architectural feet and inches. None of the other ones, just the architectural one. And that should bring you into the main empty space here with the guy that we looked at earlier. What I did is I set up a file on the pro version. You can't do this on the free version, but this was just to kind of help me have a reference to so I can show you guys and not have to have another screen on the inside the desktop. So this basically replaces your sketch that you guys are going to do, your physical sketch, and hopefully you are able to measure all the dimensions of your walls. So what I did here is I basically traced over the sample image that was in the homework, and I put some dimensions in there. And I think there's a dimension floating up here. Okay, we'll just leave it for now. But I'm going to use these dimensions to model my own space. Let me group that, move it out of the way. And let's just get started. Okay, so quickly to review, this is the SketchUp web interface, and we have all of our toolbars over here on the left. You can kind of hover over to them and it'll tell you what it is. The ones that have a little triangle right here, I'll zoom in a little bit more. You see this little triangle, it means basically it has multi-tools there. So if you select one of them, if you click on it, it'll open up the tools, the multiple tools inside that button. So you can kind of see that there's a lot of tools embedded in some of these icons. And the ones that I'm going to get you familiar with today is the select tool. So the select tool basically allows you to select an item. And it has a very simple operation. You can either select by clicking, or you can select by making a rectangle around things. And there's a difference between selecting from the left, starting your point at the left and finishing it at the right, um, versus selecting from the right and finishing at the left. So you can see when you do from right to left, it turns into this like dash line. And when you do from left to right, it turns into a solid line. Basically what that means is that when you select from left to right, you have to envelop the whole object around your rectangle, otherwise it won't select it. So basically, if I do this and I leave his foot out of the frame, it won't select him. But the other way around, it'll select everything that it touches. So I can even touch his heel and it'll select them, right? And it doesn't happen with the left and right. And this is basically important when you have multiple little objects. So let's say we have all these and I'll make them all groups. Okay, no, I'll review what the groups are in a second. So if I just want to select this guy in the middle, it's going to be a little hard. I can click on it. That's the easiest way. But I can also select from left to right and just make sure that he's the only one inside this rectangle. Forgot to make that one a group. And so that basically selects him. And if I select from right to left and I try to do the same thing, see how it's dashed? It's going to select all of them because I touched all of them. So that's basically the main difference. The other thing to note is that you can hold shift to select multiple things. So if I select one of them and then I want to select other ones after that, I can hold shift and you can see next to my arrow, there's a little plus or minus sign. It's kind of very small. But when you have shift held, you can select more things, right? So I selected all those and you can do the same thing to deselect them. Just click on them and it deselects them one by one. That's a way that you can select multiple things, okay? So that's the select tool. We have the eraser tool, which basically erases anything that it touches. So if I touch this group, it'll erase it. It works with lines as well, and I'll show that in a second. We have our paint bucket. This is to paint, and you can see the materials over here. We'll put that out of the way for now. We won't get into that today. We have our line tool, and basically what we want to use is a line pencil to create straight lines. And the way that this works is you basically hit, you can select your first point and then your second point to finish the line. So you click on your first point, and then you click on your second point, and that finishes the line. Usually it'll want to continue doing more lines, but you can hit spacebar to end it. So if I hit spacebar and it ends the command. Let's get into the line work a little bit more. So the pencil tool, you'll see here in the space that I have these colored lines, the blue, the green, and the red, and basically those are your axes for the world. So blue goes up and down, and green and red go on your X and Y axes on the floor. So you can see kind of like, this little rectangle here is on the X and Y axes, and this guy, his height is on the blue axis. So that's all that means. And these axes help you draw in the world so that you're drawing parallel to the up and down and left and right. So let's draw that line again and make sure that now we're drawing it a little bit more carefully and pay attention to what we're actually doing. So I'm going to click the first spot, and I'm going to go in the green direction. And that just tells me if I'm on the green direction, it tells me that I'm following that parallelly. If I start deviating, it turns into a black line. It means I'm going at a slight angle. So now it's not a parallel. So I won't be making perfect rectangles and squares. And if I want to, I can either click or I can visually see the length over here on the lower right. But the way that I typically do it is I type in the length. So I just type it on my keyboard and hit you'll pay attention to the right side as I type in. I'm going to type in 20 feet. And then the apostrophe is the feet symbol. And if you want to do inches, it's the quotation mark. So you hold shift on the apostrophe, and that's usually the symbol there. So right now I want feet. So let's do 20 feet. And then I can also go to the right. Let's say I want 5 feet. I just want to make sure that I'm on that red axis, 5 feet. And now I don't have to come back and type in 20 feet anymore because it'll actually, so right now I have this other line. So let's erase that. And I can kind of snap. Not letting me snap to that. There you go. It kind of infers that I want that. So now it's drawing a little construction guideline for me. And now you can see on the right side, it says 20 feet. And now I can go to the left side, 20 feet. I'm not going to click. The other thing you can do is hold shift and it'll lock it into that. It'll turn like if you're already on the red axis and you don't want to deviate from that as you click, you can basically hold shift. And now anywhere that you go, it's locked into the red direction. And if you let go, now it's not locked, right? So if you want to lock it in any direction, let's say I wanted to lock it in the green direction. I just hold shift while I'm moving it and it's like locked. It won't go any other direction. And the same goes for up. The other cool thing is that you can use the arrows on your keyboard to tell it what direction to go. So I can click on my arrows and you can see it. If I click up, it'll lock it on up and down. If I click left, it'll lock it on the green. And if I click right, it'll lock it on the red. So those are just like quick little ways to, to lock things. And that's helpful when you're modeling a few more things that are a little bit more advanced. For now, we can just kind of stick to like, using the guide as it guides us and typing in the dimension. The other cool thing about SketchUp is that it allows you to create surfaces really quickly. So if you finish a shape, so let's put the last line right there, you can see it created a surface. So now I can select the surface, or I can select the lines on that surface. And if I double click on it, for example, if I double click on the surface, if I single click, it'll just select the surface. If I double click, 1, 2, it'll select the surface and any adjoining lines around it. And let's just put another rectangle next to it so you can see how that works. So if I click on this surface twice, 1, 2, it selects basically just the lines that are around that surface, so this perimeter. But if I do it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, it selects everything that it touches. So it just goes around the entire model, and if it's touching anything, it'll select it, right? So it's important to know how to select things. So 1 click selects the surface, or I can select the line. And then double click selects everything that's touching that surface, and then triple click everything that is touching that surface and all the lines attached to it. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the line tool and surface tool. Let's take a look at the push and offset, and these are the last, actually I'll go over a remove as well, but for push, basically the push tool, and it's this little icon here with the little arrow pointing up. If you forget what they are and you remember them by name, you can search them here. So if I type in push, it'll tell me this. I can select the command, or I can also press P on my keyboard. Here's a shortcut, and you can assign this whatever you want. I'll leave it as P. So if I go back and select and just kind of be there and I push P on my keyboard, it'll give me the push tool. And what the push tool does is basically it extrudes things. So I can select the surface and extrude it in the direction naturally where it's going up or down. So let's say I wanted to make this like a fridge height or something, like a big extra large fridge height. I would just do like 6 feet high. Type in 6 feet, hit enter, and now I have a 6-foot high volume that was made of the surface below. And you can see it kind of carried these little drag lines because it has this little line attaching to it. And I can bring that up as well to 6 feet, or I can bring it up to like, let's say 12 feet. So this is how you start kind of pushing, and you can select basically any surface in SketchUp and push it. Like I can push this out 5 feet. I can push this in 2 feet, you know, so any surface that you create. And now I can actually, this created a new surface because it subdivided it because it's touching this other one. I can actually go and, you know, do like a cantilever or something and just tell it where to go. So as you can see, it's really easy to start manipulating and pushing things around, right? So you can create really complex shapes really fast in SketchUp just by creating lines and shapes. So let's undo some of these things that I did and just leave it at that. One thing to note in SketchUp is that anything that you model next to each other is what I like to call sticky. So as you can see, I modeled this rectangle and this rectangle next to each other. So now they're kind of stuck to each other. So to illustrate that, I'm going to try to push it. So as you can see, when I try to move it, it has these like jagged, like sticky geometries that are like kind of messy. And that's not what I like to do in SketchUp. I like to kind of model everything in groups. So let's undo everything that I just did and try that again by making groups. So right now everything is ungrouped, and I can tell because I click on it and I can select the surface and the line. But if I double click into, let's for example, let's try to make this guy a group and this guy a group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click into it to select the lines and the surface and make it a group. And I'm going to double click into this one and right click and make it a group. So now what I have to do is if I want to push it, I can't push it anymore because it's inside a group. I have to actually double click into the group to be able to manipulate it. So I'm going to double click, and you can see how everything else kind of fades away and it tells you that you're inside of that group. So now I can push my tool command up, and I can do, what did I say, 12 feet. And then I can go into the other group, push command up 6 feet. And now I can easily, you know, if I wanted to move this object away from that one, it's not stuck to it anymore. It's independent because it's group and shrink wrapped. It kind of looks like it's like in a little plastic box. You can kind of see the little blue box. This guy was made into a plastic box as well. If I want to go into him and select the surfaces he's made of, I double click, and now all of a sudden I can select the surfaces. And for example, I can make his beard and hair like extrude a little bit. You know, if I'm outside the group, I can't do that. I can't touch him because he's shrink wrapped inside the group. So that's basically what grouping means. All right, let's get into the move command. So the move command, all it does is it helps you move things around. Typically what you're going to be moving is moving things side to side, up and down, or in space, right? So the way it works is you hit the move icon here. It's this little multi-arrow icon here. You select whatever you want to move, and then you move it by picking a point and an endpoint. So let's say I want to move it from this point. I want to move it 100 feet that way. So I can go in the red direction and I can put 100 feet. Or actually I put 10 feet. So change that by hitting 100, or I can change it again by hitting 50. Basically, it lets me move it in that direction, whatever distance I want. The other thing I can do is I can try to like align it to put it like on top of this. So for example, like let's say I wanted to put this volume on top of this volume and I want it to be corner to corner. So what I would do is I would pick this corner and then I'd come over here and try to pick that corner. And you can see now it's moving it right on top of that corner. Or if I want it to be right on the edge, I can pick that corner. And I can also pick the midpoint of that group. So it's kind of like cantilevered. And let's say that I wanted to align this side. So I can move it in the green direction to align to that side. Or let's just say that I want this one on top of that one. So I would hit move or it's M on the shortcut on the keyboard. I can hit this point and move it on top. So basically this is how you align things to each other. Like you can move them around. And so basically you click on the corner or the endpoint and you can align that to an endpoint, right? So It's just you have to be careful where you start and where you finish. That's all that means. All right, so I did a really quick overview of all the tools that we're going to be using. So now I'm going to delete everything and I'm going to start modeling this guy. So like I said, I have all the measurements here. You should have the measurements in your drawing. If you don't have them drawn into the drawing, you can actually just measure as you go because you use the scale. And if you didn't, try to get those measurements into your drawing. That will be important for you to get this done to scale. So if you drew a 1/2 inch in your drawing, that should equal to 1 foot. Just remember that. So try to get the 1-to-1 ratio of like how big the actual walls are. So we'll start with this corner, and I know that I'm going to go up 4 feet. So let's start over here. I'm going to go up 4 feet. So I'm just going to go in the green direction 4 feet. And I'm just going to quickly do all this. So I know I'm going 3 feet that way. And I'm going 8'9" in the green. Then I come back 3 feet. And then I go up 10 feet. Then I go to the right, and you can kind of see that I'm always telling it to go in the green and the red, right? So I'm going to the right 14 feet, 5 inches. So make sure that you're differentiating between inches and feet. It's important. Otherwise, you're going to have different weird dimensions. Now 14 feet 9 down. Now 5 feet. Here, I'm right here now. I'm at 5 feet to the right, 6 inches down. Body 7 foot 6 inches, 6 feet. 7, 6. You guys probably won't be as fast as me, and that's okay. I'm doing this fast to save you time. It's a whole process. 19. I'm missing a dimension somewhere. I got a little leftover nub here. This 4 feet. 3 6. Oh, it's 1 foot 6 down. So that's the 1 foot. So I'm going to drag all of these 1 foot down. 1 foot more. Now I should be able to close my shape. There you go. Not perfect. Anyways, let's just close it right there. That's fine. So now I have the surface, right? I have that surface with the line work. And now I can come into the drawing, and I'm going to delete these so just for visually I can see them. No, actually, let's keep them. Let's take a look at to see how wide these walls are. So I'm going to use my tape measure tool. Actually, I forgot to tell you guys about that tool. Tape measure is, where's the tape measure? Yeah, tape measure is in this command. It's usually the first one, but I think I click on this by accident. If you don't see it and you get lost, just type in tape measure here. You can see that it's a T command, so I'm going to use T to figure it out. So I'm going to try to take a measurement of that wall. I'm going to hit T, and I'm going to select the first line, and then I'm just going to try to hover over visually. There's no line there. I didn't draw that line, so it's telling me that it's about 5 inches, right? So I'm going to use 5. It could be 6 inches too. 6 inches. Let's do 6 inches to be clean. So this is where the offset command comes in. So let's type in offset and find out where it is. Offset. So the offset command basically takes a shape and it offsets it in or out. And what I want to do is I want to offset in 6 inches to create all my walls, right? So I'm going to tell it to go in this direction, and I'm going to type in 6 inches. And now I have this really beautiful 6-inch offset all around the perimeter, and that's basically my perimeter wall for this room. Now I have another room here that divides the bathroom, but I'm not going to worry about that for this exercise. So now what we want to do is we want to try to get the 2 doors that are in the space and model. So right now this exercise, I'm just going to show you how to model the wall perimeter. I'm not actually going to model any of the other stuff. And this is what I want. This is the level that I want you guys to be able to get to in your homework. So let's go in here, and we can see that our door is in this little nook right here. And if we zoom in closely, we can see that there is a little piece of wall coming out this a little further out. And it's about, I would say maybe like 2 inches. Let's just say about 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape measure, and I want to measure 2 inches out. So I can either click on the endpoint and go 2 inches, and it'll create this very small, hard to see little like guide point. Or I can also create a construction guideline by clicking not on any endpoint, but along the line. So I know that from this line, I want to go 2 inches out. So I'm going to click on the line, and now you can see I can create a construction line parallel to it. So now I want to do 2 inches, type in 2 inches. 2 inches. And see, it put the guideline exactly where the guide point is, but now I have it all up and down and it's infinite. Like it doesn't end. It's just a construction guideline. And it's not part of your geometry, it's just a guide for you to put geometry on. So let's try to measure how wide that door is, the opening. So if we go from here to here, it's about 2'10". So that's how wide we're going to put our door opening to. So now we're going to do another guideline from that guideline. And I'm going to go, so keep in mind, I can click anywhere on that line as long as it's not a point. If I do a point, my other guide is going to be a point, and I want a guideline. So I'm going to click along the guide, and I'm going to do 2'10". So now I have a guideline that tells me exactly where that opening is, and all I have to do now is draw it with a pencil. So see how the guideline created an intersection where my other line was? So now I can use the intersection to draw my new opening cut, and I have it right there. And I can delete my guides. And I can delete that dot too, but I can't delete it because it's going to delete everything else around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to type in guides. Guide. I can't click for some reason. All right, for some reason my mouse is not working to type. Give me a second. All right, I had this issue before when I'm sharing video, so ignore that for now. So ignore that guideline. So let's try to figure out where the other door is. And we have a similar situation. We have a door that goes into the closet. So we actually have to draw that wall first. So let's continue the wall. And basically I'm going to carry that line over. And I'm going to carry this line over to there. And I'm going to erase the lines in between. And now we have the wall that's there. And now let's create the opening. So from here, we have about, let's say 4 inches. And the door opening is also 2'10". So same thing, let's do a guide. Remember, click on the line, not a point. So from this edge of the wall, we want to go up 4 inches, type in 4 inches. And then from that guideline, another 2'10". And now pencil, draw the line right there, complete it. Complete it. And now I can come in and I can erase that line and these 2 lines. And let's keep the floor. Let's keep the floor. So double click on the floor and make it a group. And I'll show you why that's important, because now we want to double click on the walls and make that a group. And the last thing that we're going to do is push these walls up to create the walls. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click into the group of walls that we just made in 2D. And I'm going to take my push command, which is, I forgot where it is. Oh, it's in this subset. But let's say I don't remember where it was. I can actually type in. Let's see if it works now. Can't type. You could put type in theory, type push, and it'll show up this little guy. Remember, it's also P on your keyboard, so you can type in P. Oh, I see what the problem is. My keyboard ran out of battery, so that's why I can't type. So I have to do everything with my mouse right now. So now we have to go up, and we want to go up about 9 feet. For some reason, I can't type. And the last thing that we want to do is we want to draw the header. So we know that door openings typically are, well, we don't know this, but I'm telling you, they're typically about 7 feet. So let's go up, let's draw another construction line up, type in 7 feet. And now we know that there needs to be a line around there so that I can push it and complete the shape. So I can find that intersection and then go along the green axis. This is why these axes are helpful, so I know I'm parallel. And now I created a shape right there, a surface that I can then push by hitting P and push this way. Right now I can take my eraser and erase this guideline and these extra lines that I created. And let's do that one more time. Let's do a different method over here. We know that my walls are 9 foot tall. So what I can do is I can basically take this line and copy it down. So the way I'm going to copy is I'm going to hit the move tool. I'm going to select it. And you can see that it only wants to move up sideways. And I'm actually moving the shape, the volume. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to click, as I'm moving it, I want to click Control on my keyboard. And that'll allow me to make a copy. So I can place this copy of this line anywhere and I want to move it down in the blue direction, I want to move it to 7 feet, which is 9 minus 2 feet will get us to 7. So I have to move down 2 feet. And that didn't work. So let's try that again. Okay, so now it's on 2 feet. So I can click and I can push that to close off the header above the door, right? Now I can delete all these lines. And voila, we have our walls to our room. Obviously, we're missing a lot of stuff that's in here. We have the main frame of the walls, the door openings. There's another wall in here that I won't get into. I could model that if I wanted to in here. I just need to do the same process that I've already done. And there's also windows. There's a window, I believe, here, and a window right here. And the way that you would do those is you would basically use your construction lines to figure out exactly where in the elevation they were. Let's say that they're about 3 feet high, and let's say we just magically knew that they're 2 feet from that wall, and that it's a 4 foot wide window, and now we know that it's a 5 foot or 4 foot tall window. So now we created that guideline right there, and we can create with our line, we can come in here and create that shape in the wall, on the surface of that wall, and now we could push it in. So we could push that in, and if I push it, I can see the other side of the wall right there. It kind of clicks into it right there on face, and if I click onto it, I've created an opening for my window, and you can see that I have that opening, right? Just much like a door. It's just that I did it backwards. This one I removed it in the plan and I extruded it. This one I removed it in the elevation and I pushed it out, like I deleted it. And we can bring our guy in and move him into the space to see what it looks like in scale. So you can see, like, this is what, if it was a room of empty walls, this is what it would feel like for him. And he'd be able to go under the door because it looks like he's about almost 6 foot tall, so he could comfortably fit through the door. He can go into his walk-in closet, and he'd probably have shelves and hangers and all that stuff, rods to hang his stuff. And then his bathroom would be over here with a wall in there, and you can kind of imagine that from the plan, right? But this is basically it, guys. This is the level of detail that I want you to get into for your homework. So if you can create this, that would be amazing. And remember, this is helpful if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel button in the middle, because you need to use that scroll wheel. So basically, when I click the scroll wheel, I get this orbit tool, and this is how I move around the space, right? Without this, it's really hard to navigate in SketchUp. So I'm always looking at things from underneath, from above, from an angle. I try to get into the space and move around. And if you don't have this type of mouse, it's really difficult. So if you are really interested in SketchUp and you don't have a mouse like this, reach out to me and we can get you one. Otherwise, for now, you can use Magic Plan, the free version of Magic Plan, the trial, and I'll send out an email link to that as well. So you should have that in your email by the time you're watching this video. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Rewind the video to look at things over and review. And if something doesn't still make sense or you want to do something else, reach out to me and we can answer those questions. Okay. And don't forget, save your model. Do this at the beginning, because if your internet crashes and you do all this work, it'll you'll lose all your work. So I'm going to call it Ricky. I can't type for some reason. Sorry, guys. Just type in your name or something and hit save, and that'll save your model. I'll have to save this later when I'm not sharing the screen, because I think that's what's causing me to not be able to type. Anyways, have an amazing weekend. I hope you're not watching this over the weekend and you're doing this another time. But if you are, I hope you're enjoying your weekend. And see you next time.